So the reason we're bringing all this up is long way to get to the comments from Alex Corey yesterday, just basically saying how, in my mind, he wants to see some aggression. Like, let's make some deals, let's trade away some prospects. And the Red Sox are a playoff relevant ball club right now. How surprised are you? And what do you think / expect them to do over the next couple weeks?
They've been in this weird window for a while, like you guys were talking about. And during the offseason, it was just like, what are Heim Bloom and the Red Sox going to do? Because they were in this weird period where, Rafi Devers was the guy that you're like, well, you have to sign him to an extension. This is one of the best young hitters in all of baseball, a cornerstone of what would be your franchise for the next decade. But those conversations were not going necessarily the way that the Red Sox wanted them to go, or Rafi Devers in that case. But then you end up being able to sign them to that long-term extension. After Bogarts goes to San Diego, you're like, all right, we have our guy that we're going to build around offensively. And then you're bringing in pieces here and there. And a couple years ago, you brought in Schwarber at the deadline. And you bring in Kike Hernandez, and you have guys that can play, right? Like you have a major league lineup. You're bringing in young kids and Tristan Casas and Dahlback didn't work out at the time, but they're trying to kind of rebuild on the fly. But I think the situation the Red Sox have gotten themselves into is something that we've seen here in Chicago with the Chicago Cubs, where you have a fan base that looks around and says, all right, we have what we suppose that's what's supposed to be this big spending, big money ball club. Yet we have the mindset of a mid-tier small market team. And fans don't want to see that because they're looking around at the Mets and the Padres and all these teams that are spending big money to go out there and win, and teams that should have the opportunity to do that because of the influx of cash that they have aren't doing that. And so I can't blame a guy like Alex Cora, who has seen the highest of highs with them being able to win in Boston, but has also gone through these stretches of losing in divisions where you've seen teams like the Baltimore Orioles go from 108 losses to being, to me right now, the best team in the American League.
Understand? Yeah, that's the Red Sox feeling. They're a big market team. They want to win, and they're trying to win every year. Now I get what Heim Bloom's trying to do. He's trying to build it for the long term. But we talked about before you came on, Russ. Like, screw that, dude. Like, I want to win now, and the fans want to win now. They don't care about 5 years from now. It's every year. By the way,
they want both.
Yeah, of course. They want a happy medium, which very few teams have been able to achieve. Maybe the Dodgers, maybe the Astros. Yeah, but the Cardinals haven't won in a long time.
But they've been consistently
but they haven't
good.
Won.
Yankees consistently
good. They haven't won.
Right. I mean, they won in the 21st century, but yes.
They haven't won in a long time.
Sure.
Right? I mean, Russ, does it freak you out that there's like 400 TVs behind you?
I was looking at that too.
With that. Me on it?
Yeah, if you turn around and look, there's like 400 TVs back there.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild, but I actually like the setup because it feels like stuff's going on here at Stadium. But to you guys' point about the Red Sox, something that I'm assuming you guys heard all the time being in organizations, and something I hear all the time talking to executives is this idea of sustained success. And it's something that executives love throwing out there, like, hey man, we want to have sustained success. We want to be a team that can compete for the long haul. But it's really hard to do. Like you mentioned, AJ, like it's really hard to thread the needle of we're going to put a team on the field that is competitive, not only to just, say, all right, we were in a 500 team, but can compete to get to the postseason, but also prepare yourself for 5 and 6 years down the road where you have young kids in your system that'll impact the big league level. There's very few teams that can do that. There's maybe 2 or 3 that do it really well. Houston's done it really well over the last couple of years. I think what Cincinnati Reds are doing is a really good sign of that, being able to hit on your first round picks and have all those kids help your big league ball club. You're seeing that for them. So it's not easy to do. But at some point, I do agree, and I think a lot of fan bases agree, like, you got to go for it, right? You're not going to win the 2030 World Series right now. You got to win the one coming up here in 2023.
What do you actually think that the Red Sox will do something or do something before the deadline? And also, what makes the Baltimore Orioles the best, in your opinion, the best team in the AL?
So I'll start with the Orioles first. I think if you look at the consistency from Baltimore, right, what they've been able to do with a group of young players. Last year, they were the big surprise. They're not surprising anybody this year, and they're still able to play at that high of a level. And if you look at the Tampa Bay Rays, they were the hottest team in baseball for 2 months, right? Everybody's like, all right, they can hit well. They have great starting pitching. They have a really good bullpen with Fairbanks in the back end, good manager in Kevin Cash. But they've come back to earth. And you look at the standings right now, the Orioles are 1 game behind the Tampa Bay Rays that were so hot. And to be able to sustain different injuries, guys like Cedric Mullins, and to be able to have a young starting staff and still be able to tread water to the point where I don't think there are many teams in the American League that are better than the Baltimore Orioles. And I think right now, because of the way that the Rays have come back to earth, that's why I think Baltimore is the best team in the American League. But to your question about the Red Sox, I feel like they're in a similar-ish position to the Yankees, where you look at that division and they're not in it, right? You have Toronto, Baltimore, and the Rays that are all better. But in the wild card standings, they're right behind the Houston Astros, and the Yankees are right behind the Red Sox. So you got to ask yourself and be realistic and say, okay, are we a team that can actually do something in October? Are we a team that can even reach that point in time by going out and making a move? Or are we wasting our time by trying to, win that third wild card spot, maybe not even accomplish it, and then trade some of that prospect capital that we have?
So, Russ, do the Orioles go for it then? We've talked about how we want the Red Sox to go for it. We talked about this the other day. Do the Orioles go for it? And let's say Jackson Holiday for Ohtani or whoever else is out there. And do they chips all in and say,
but why are you trading their top prospect?
Because that's what it's going to take to get Ohtani. You're not giving away your
100%.
42nd prospect and be like, Angels, you can have Jimmy Smith and A-Ball. He's our 42nd prospect for Shohei. You're going to have to give something up.
Can I offer you like 3 prospects that are not my top prospect?
And the Angels are going to be like
Heston Kjerstad is very sought out right now. Maybe because they have a surplus, and I'm sure you've seen, Russ. I mean, Joey Ortiz or Jordan Westberg, who doesn't necessarily have a position for this team. There are a number of players that I could probably interest. Colton Cowser, that I could come up with that wouldn't involve Holiday, that might still beat any prospect package that anyone else offers.
I'm with you. By the way, AJ, you're really high on this Jimmy Smith kid. So maybe he's going to turn into something one day.
He's on every team too. He's on 30 teams.
But I do think that this is when it's right for the Orioles to go and do something. Not only are they so good, it feels like they're in their moment. Last year, you can make the case that they were a year early. I understand. But right now, with where you are, where you can look around the American League and say, there's not many, if any, teams that are better than us. You have to go out and make that move. Do I think that they need to go out and get Shohei Ohtani to make themselves a better team? No. There's plenty of great starting pitching, which I think would be the area that they go try to get, whether it's Marcus Stroman if he's available, maybe Giolito, maybe a guy like a Lance Lynn, Blake Snell, like Jordan Montgomery. There's a lot of guys out there for them to acquire that wouldn't cost them a guy like a Jackson Holiday that makes them a better team. And I think for me, if I'm in that position as a GM for the Orioles, if I'm Michael Elias, I say, all right, who's the guy that has postseason experience that can kind of help lead a lot of these young guys and say, all right, guys, we're here now. This is what we got to do to try to win.